Hi there, it's April the 15th and we're continuing our journey through the good news of Luke, and we're in chapter 17 and we're reading from verses 11 through to verse 37. So the first part of this reading is about the story of 10 lepers, 10 people with virulent skin disease who approach Jesus. It seems as though they don't come right up to him because lepers were not permitted to come close to people. They had to live apart. And as they come, they cry out to Jesus to have mercy on them. They don't actually ask at this point for healing, but they're asking for mercy. And Jesus calls out to them eventually and tells them to go and show themselves to the priest. Now, it's interesting that in most of the cases where Jesus heals lepers, this is what he does, because the priest acted as a kind of health inspector to make sure that people could be received back into the community. They're also symbolic of the law of the Torah, confessing and witnessing to what Messiah, what Jesus is doing. And so the 10 lepers go, and it says, as they go, they're healed. It's interesting, Jesus doesn't lay hands on them. The miracle happens as they go to show themselves to the priest. And in their going, one of them is filled with great gratitude. He's filled with amazement at what's happened, and he wants to go back and he wants to encounter the one who gave them this miracle. And it's interesting, it's only the one who goes back, and this one is a Samaritan. Now it kind of links in with the story Jesus told earlier about the Good Samaritan, because Samaritans were separated from Jews. There was a division. They were considered renegade Jews. They were considered not truly descendants of Abraham. But this one Samaritan comes back, and Jesus says, I thought there were 10 of you that were healed, and only one of you's come back, and you're not a Jew. You're an alien. You're born elsewhere. But Jesus says, go, your faith has saved you. Your faith has rescued you. And so the Samaritan leper goes back on his way rejoicing. It's a sign that Jesus is reaching out to those beyond just the scope of the nation of Israel. And then the Pharisees come and they question Jesus about the kingdom of God, about God becoming king. Remember that the anticipation of the Jews was that someone, a great leader, would come and deliver them from the Roman occupation, and they would be free, and there would be a political kingdom established as there had been in the time of the Maccabees, or going back to the time of the kings. But Jesus kind of steers them away from that, says, look, don't go after those things, because actually the kingdom is here, the kingdom is among you. And Jesus himself, of course, is the king, and he is standing in their midst. The kingdom always implies the king. You can't have kingdom without the king. Jesus himself is the king. But then Jesus begins to tell them about a coming cataclysm, about a time where there will be a separation, where there will be an analysis, there will be a sifting like wheat from chaff. And he says in those times it will be terrible, it will be catastrophic. He says there will be flight involved, there will be fleeing. And of course, many people have taken this to refer to the end of time, the days of the Son of Man that Jesus talks about. But of course, there's also a sooner fulfillment than that in the coming destruction of the temple in Jerusalem in 70 AD. Jesus is pointing to a number of events. But what he does say is that in those times, in the times of the coming of the Son of Man, that there's going to be a lassitude, there's going to be a not caring. People are just going to carry on with life as if Jesus wasn't coming. But there is going to be a time of definitive sifting, a definitive separating of the followers of the Son of Man from those who do not. And Jesus is bringing the Pharisees to book, because obviously they are the ones who are looking for a coming of a kingdom of power and political kingdom. But Jesus is saying it's going to be greater than that. It's going to be the day of the Lord when heaven and earth collide, and there's going to be a final reckoning. We have the kingdom now. We live in the days of the arriving kingdom. Jesus says that the kingdom is among you because the king is among you. Today, let's seek not the machine of a kingdom, not the structures of a kingdom, but let's seek the king himself, Jesus, who is the one who brings in the kingdom, who is the king in our lives. Have a very good April the 15th.